Hey, you're listening to Stop the Scroll, a social media marketing podcast, and I'm your host, Heidi Schmidt. I'm a social media strategist and agency owner with over 15 years of marketing experiences helping businesses grow online. We'll be diving into what you need to know so that you can show up confidently online without the overwhelm. Get your notebook ready to jot down some amazing marketing gems, and let's dive into it. Welcome back, my friends. It has been a hot minute. And this is, I want to say penultimate, but penultimate is like second to last. So this is not the penultimate episode. However, this is going to be the final episode of season 1. We're going to call this season 1 of Stop the Scroll, meaning we're not going away forever, but we are taking a break. But to celebrate essentially 2 years of the podcast, I'm going to share, this week we're celebrating 6 years in business, which feels like my head is kind of blown, right? 6 years of all the things, 6 years of growing a team, finding and getting ghosted by contractors, finding good fits who have been with me to the team and finding some not so great fits. It really, over the past 6 years, I've really learned my leadership style. I have learned so much about just the work that I want to do, and it's funny because we talk about like quarter life crises and all these fun things. Like I remember experiencing that in my 20s where I wasn't quite sure which direction I wanted to go. I felt a little like untethered, if you will, mainly because that all happened during the Great Recession. But when you're in business, like there's such personal growth that happens. And, I have to give a very big shout out to my business coach, Allison Loftus, who has just been a true gem and has been very much an anchor to me on this business journey. She has helped me so much with systems to have in place and all these things. So I would not be here at year 6 without her guidance and brilliance to lift me up. But I wanted to share. So being this kind of end of season 1, because life is lifing and life is busy. And those of you longtime listeners know that I am also running for political office here in Maryland. And it's taken up some time. My values right now are, getting elected and taking care of my clients. And so everything else is kind of coming second fiddle to that. It's literally like family, clients, campaign. Not necessarily in that order on any given day. Depending on the day, like it might be campaign, family, clients, but those are my top 3 priorities right now. So the podcast, bless my podcast manager, Liz Chapman, who is an absolute gem. If anyone is wanting to start a podcast, I cannot recommend her enough. She has the utmost patience for me over the past couple of months. All you listeners know, I have not been as active. I have not been recording as much because there are only 24 hours in a day. And, sometimes that 35, 45 minutes that I really need to sit down and record and bang out an episode doesn't happen. And it has been probably a month since my last episode. So here we are. I wanted to do this around my 6 year in business, which kind of coincides with my 2 years on the podcast episode. Both of those were last week. And so it just kind of makes sense. And, my podcast manager, Liz, is taking a long vacation in May. Bless her. I hope she has a trip of a lifetime. I've heard inklings of it, and I cannot wait to meet her in July. By the way, I'm going to a business retreat in Chicago. Thank you, Lauren Najar, for leading that. Another gem, if you are in business and you haven't yet spoken to Lauren, chef's kiss, she's brilliant. And so that kind of leads me to my 6 lessons in 6 years in business, my 6 biggest takeaways, and that I want you to think about as, and some of them are marketing specific, some of them are social media specific, but some of them are also just not. So that's what we're going to chat about today. Thanks for bearing with me. Thanks for spending the past 5 minutes letting me rant and ramble and kind of share the direction that the podcast is taking. The podcast has been a light, and it has taught me so much, and it's not going away forever, but I may rethink it. And so these next few months, there are less than 70 days until the primary, probably around 60 days by the time this goes live. and like less than 200 days until the general election. And that has to be my focus, that my team kind of keeping the client trains moving because they are brilliant. Those are my focuses. So the podcast, we're hitting pause. Anyhow, so let's get into these 6 lessons because I really think that they're valuable and they are life, marketing, entrepreneurship, business, all of the fun things. So let's talk about them. So lesson number 1, and it's funny because I was typing these up. I outlined myself and, for once I did not use ChatGPT at all to prep this last episode. Recently, I would dump a title and be like, give me an outline, just so that I wasn't all over the place and felt like I had some sort of like, okay, this is what I'm talking about. But today I wrote out my 6 lessons and, they're going to turn into a carousel. They're going to be all the things. They're going to be all over social media in the next week. But I'm going to start with engagement. And this is true on social media and it's true in life that engagement everywhere stimulates growth. And, I've not been as consistent posting on my own social media accounts. A lot of you following me probably noticed that. I'm still trying to be somewhat active on stories, but even with engagement, I am still growing my account, even though I'm not consistently posting. But engagement is not even just online. It is about finding your community. It is about being active. And my best piece of advice, and this is, I've talked before about like knowing where your leads are coming from and being active on those channels or in those communities. You don't have to be everywhere in business. You don't have to be on TikTok. You don't have to be on, you don't even have to be on social media. I have talked to so many businesses that are not even on social media, but like their businesses still grow. You don't have to be everywhere, but you do have to show up. You have to, like, if your leads come from in-person networking, and I know plenty of people that, like, this is the case, then you have to show up to in-person networking. Your business is not going to grow itself. You have to find where your leads are. Like, if it's on Instagram, if you are an online business owner, then you got to show up on Instagram, like, consistently. You don't have to be everywhere, but you do have to be active. Engagement begets engagement. Engagement stimulates growth. Like, be engaged. Here's the thing, and this kind of leads me to my next one. People want to be engaged with the brands. They want to know that there's real people behind them, which leads me to lesson number 2. Be authentic. And this is overstated, but especially in the world of AI, and it's funny because I was just having a conversation, shout out to Jamie, who kind of prompted this conversation, and I knew that this was kind of going to be my last episode for now. So I didn't want to do a whole episode on it, but I found a way to fit it in. People are so sick and tired of AI slop. And we see AI everywhere. And now that like AI is doing those like trashy images, my God, please stop the insanity. Stop the AI image insanity. A client of mine recently hired someone and they put out today, my clients can always post for themselves. Like if they're so inspired, I never say like, no, you can't post. But they put out like this terrible AI image. And I was just like, my God, no. Stop with the AI slop. Be authentic. I'm going to be transparent. I have used AI for clients mostly to ideate or to edit. I'm a terrible self-editor. I'm not going to lie. Like, I am a terrible self-editor. Like, I ramble. If you've read my like newsletter or my or blogs, or if you've listened to the podcast, like I write how I speak. I am authentic AF, and what you see is what you get. And that's why authenticity is one of my brand values, and it's one of my values in my campaign. Like, what you see is what you get. I am authentic. But people connect with people, and people are smart enough that they're going to see through AI slop. And, eventually, like maybe my business will transform more into like political communications consultant. I'm learning a heck of a lot here. But the one thing that really grinds my gears is when I see other candidates like putting out posts and I can just tell that it's AI. And it's like, God, you're trying to connect with people. Like, have an original thought, right? Like, even in business, like people want to connect with people. And I've been saying this so long, is be authentic. Like stop. I recently spoke at a networking lunch for the Collective, which if you're in the Annapolis area, you know the Collective. And I said, people want to connect with people. So like there is a whole thing, and I'm seeing this in politics and I'm seeing this in business. People want to go back to the Instagram of 2017, 2018, where people would just post and it wouldn't be so overthought and it wouldn't be salesy and people weren't using Instagram like a billboard anymore. Be authentic. It cannot be overstated that authenticity sells. And when you show up online, stop using it as a billboard and start connecting with your audience. Start, I was thinking about how, I have a fundraiser coming up for my campaign in a week from when I'm recording this, probably after I publish this. But I literally I can keep posting my flyer and I can keep, whatever, dragging on about it. But I decided that I want to talk about how flippin' hard it is to fundraise as a candidate. It is really hard. And maybe that'll get people out to my event. Maybe that'll get some donations. But that to me screams authentic. And, I can talk about my why, blah, blah, blah. It's my birthday. It's my birthday month. April's my birthday month. We take the whole month. But yeah, it's not I cannot overstate authenticity online. People, especially coming out of the pandemic, people are seeking that authentic connection. They want to work with brands that they connect with, that they have trust with, and you build that trust by making that connection. So show the behind the scenes. Stop over perfecting things. Let it ride, man. I'm looking at my list of things and I kind of took one of these lists, but we're going to go back to rule number 3, which is people know when it's AI. I kind of talked about this, but unless you're an expert and can make it not sound like AI, and if you need someone who can help you do that, I've got a girl. Got a gal who can do that. Chrissy Ray is brilliant with AI and teaching AI to sound like you. She does this for one of our mutual clients. But use it wisely and use it strategically. We don't want AI to take over our brain power, right? It's funny because I am literally an endorsement packet hell. All of the organizations that you want endorsements for, they're all, here you go. But I literally, it's funny because I have some canned responses that I customize, but I needed a little bit of help creating that canned response. And my husband, bless him, he's a brilliant editor. He saw me typing into AI, this is what I want to say. And he's like, no. He's like, you write it yourself and I will edit. Because sometimes AI is good to clear your thoughts, right? Or to just clarify things a little bit more. So it's a tool. Use it wisely, use it strategically. I did not end up using AI for any of my endorsement package, just FYI. I think it's fine to use it for captions if you're also adding a personal touch. Occasionally, I will brain dump hey, I want to create a caption about XYZ. Or I'll use a tool that I have that helps create a week of content. But then I customize things. I always edit and add my personal touch. That doesn't quite sound like me. Also, the M dashes. And I know many a writer love a good M dash. But if they're overused, that is a surefire sign of AI. And also, can we please, I'm going to reiterate this, can we please just stop with the AI graphics? They look like garbage. I said my piece. I'm going to move into some kind of business lessons. Bandwidth, you have to know your bandwidth and you have to know your capacity. And they are not always the same thing. And this is one thing that I learned through a mastermind that I'm in. But we have our bandwidth and we have our capacity. And sometimes they are not the same thing. I might have the, right now, I probably have the capacity for another client, but I don't have the bandwidth. I don't necessarily have the bandwidth to manage it. And so until I find an account manager, I wouldn't say no, because my marketing assistant could probably help with the content creation or the management, one or the other, or both. But I know that my personal bandwidth, I am tapped out. I can do some projects. I can do some strategy sessions. I have an email marketing VIP day, and I'm probably going to be doing over the summer a 8-week masterclass again. But I am being super protective about that bandwidth and capacity. because you have to protect your bandwidth. You have to protect your margins. You have to protect your space. Like, it's not good if I'm in, 40 hours of meetings a week. And so even, I think about, and this is something that's been really important that we've been, because I have my 9 to 5, I run my business, which is not really 9 to 5. Sorry, random aside, my mic stopped working. So now I need to totally pick up where I left off. Sorry about that. So this might seem a little disjointed, but owning a business is not 9 to 5. We all know that. And obviously for me, the campaign is very 5 to 9, but that is talking about bandwidth and capacity and all these things. So knowing where my priorities land right now is basically where I need to spend my time. And for me right now, unfortunately, like the podcast kind of has to take a back seat. But in business and in life, I've had friends tell me who run businesses, like, this is not a growth season for me. This is a survival season. And I think we as business owners need to give ourselves that grace to understand the seasons of life that we are in. And when it is a growth season, when we can push ourselves a little bit harder, and when we have to kind of scale back because life is lifing. We're all human. And I think sometimes we just need to give ourselves a little more grace in that respect. On that note, lesson number 5 is surround yourself with the right people. When I started the podcast, I named a whole bunch of people who have been instrumental in me growing my business to what it is, who are still, my business is not perfect and there is still so much to learn because I did not study entrepreneurship or business management. Surround yourself with people who are going to lift you up. Surround yourself with people who aren't just going to blow smoke up your butthole, but are going to give it to you straight, because sometimes honesty is the best advice. And when you're not doing great or when you're sucking, sometimes your feelings are your feelings. And sometimes we just need people to reaffirm our feelings, right? So surround yourself with an amazing community. Surround yourself with people who are experts in the things that you're not experts in. I am so, so grateful to be a leading lady ambassador and to have this incredible community of badass women who are killing it in business. And, sometimes we all want to burn it all down. And I got to tell you, Q1, I was ready to burn it all down. Alas, I have bills to pay. I cannot burn anything down, per my husband. But business is hard. And I think any business owner will tell you that there are ups, there are downs, there are highs, there are lows, there are valleys, there are peaks. And surround yourself with people who understand that and who get it and who have been there. Or maybe they're coming up behind you. Surround yourself with people like that. That's all that I can say, is surround yourself with people who get it, who are going to cheer you on, and who are going to let you have shitty days. Sometimes when we have shitty days, sometimes we just want someone to be like, hey, that really sucks. I don't need someone's apology. I don't need someone to be like, oh, I'm so sorry. No, sometimes you just need someone to sit in the suck with you and be like, that's really shitty. I'm sorry you're going through that. Sometimes you just need someone to say that. And I know I just kind of said the opposite, that you don't always want someone to apologize, because the universe is going to universe, right? Not to get all woo-woo, but I think when we think about who we surround ourselves in life, and, I think about just some of the relationships that have kind of fallen by the wayside, especially as I've launched my political campaign, people who literally told me, I'm sorry, I don't agree with you politically, so I can't support you. Which kind of just begs the question, let's just support good people in political office, maybe they don't need to agree with us on everything, but let's just support good people. Down with the party system. Not really, because, I am a lifelong Democrat. Those are my values. That's the party that aligns with my values. My husband was a Republican when I married him, whatever. But surround yourself with good people who are going to cheer you on, who are going to show up for you, who are going to give it to you straight. But you need to be told, shut up, you're being ridiculous. Surround yourself with the right people. And the final lesson, and this is something that I think many people will relate to, is stop underselling yourself. And to any of my fellow social media managers who are listening to this, if you have not yet, raise your rates, stop underselling yourself. Social media is a hard ass job, especially when you're a freelancer, especially when you're doing it as a business. It is hard. Social media is a 24/7 job because it never turns off and everyone wants a lot without a big investment. So raise your rates. You're talented. You are worthy. And if people don't see your value, and this is true of social media and anything else, if people don't see the value in what you offer, they are not your ideal client. Your ideal client will 100% value what you have to give, value your offer. They will value your expertise. If they don't, then they're not your ideal client, and stop wasting your time marketing to them. Often in business, especially when we're new in business, like we undersell ourselves because we want to catch all the clients. But you know what? Like, not every client is that ideal client. So hold true to your values, hold true to your worth. And if you don't think that you're worth it, you 100% are. So raise your rates. You are worth every dang penny. So yeah. So on that note, those are my 6 amazing lessons, from engagement to community to using AI smart, to not underselling yourself, to knowing your bandwidth and your capacity, and to being authentic. Authenticity wins all the time, everywhere, whether you're networking in person and marketing your business in person, or whether you are solely an online business owner. Authenticity wins every single time. I've learned a lot in 2 years of podcasting, and man, I'm tearing up. I'm getting all weepy here. I have had the honor of working with some amazing people who have found me through the podcast and who have found so much value through everything we've done here. And we're not going away for good. It's just a pause. You can always follow me on Instagram at Heidi Schmidt Creative. Follow me. I will probably put out a blog or an email or something with my top 10 favorite, most listened to podcasts. So expect that compilation coming soon. And yeah, it's been a journey here over the past 6 years and 2 years of podcasting. It's been a journey. And, as I get further into this campaign, I'm like, man, what are they going to pull out of my campaign, out of my podcast chest? But, we'll see. I think that this podcast has been really valuable to many a business owner, and I've loved being the host. And I have a couple of upcoming guest appearances on other podcasts, so y'all can listen to me at other places. How you can work with me throughout 2026 is I have my 90-minute strategy sessions. I'm offering a couple of those each month, as well as my consulting packages. Those too are available. And they're a little bit more structured because I found that letting it ride like letting the client kind of like, I don't know, I needed a little bit more structure for my own purposes. But yeah. And then coming up in the summer, there will be another social media masterclass, which is going to be a little bit of social media, a little bit of email. And yeah. And then finally, the other way is my email marketing setup VIP intensive. Because here's the thing. The one thing that I've learned over the past 5 years is that social media has become slightly less effective for most business owners. It's very much geared towards creators these days. So businesses feel like they're fighting an uphill battle, and you're not alone and you're not wrong. So making sure that we have owned marketing and rented marketing, as I call it. Social media is rented space. We know that. So having owned marketing with blogs or emails, those kind of things, spaces, platforms that you kind of own and have the rights to, those are equally as important. So anyhow, thank you all so much for listening. The past 2 years have been quite incredible, and I look forward to coming back. And like I said, it may come back in a different shape or form. We may rethink some things. We'll see. I've really been absolutely loving the intersection of social media and policy and politics and campaigns. So hopefully at some point, the ride takes me back to that space where I had so much passion, 20 years ago when I graduated college. So it's not farewell, but it is goodbye for now. stay connected with me online at Heidi Schmidt Creative in all of the places. You can also, and I'm going to put this pitch out there. If you want to follow along the campaign, this is not sponsored by my campaign. This is, no authority lines. But if you want to follow along with the journey of me as a candidate, I'm being super authentic. You can follow my Substack. Which actually has not been updated in like 2 months. So don't follow the Substack. See, life is lifing. But you can follow me. I tend to be been trying to be a little bit more active on TikTok and on Instagram. TikTok, I will link. I don't even remember my username. I think it's @LegallyHeidi. And then Instagram, you can follow the campaign Heidi Schmidt Maryland 31. Until next time, go forth, create amazing content that is authentic, true to you, and true to your brand that stops the scroll.